I don't think Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. I want to have this discussion. He's great, of course, top 5. I'm not saying he wasn't great.
Top 5?
But I think, of course, I think, I know, right? Sorry. You could even say top 3. But I think when it's all said and done in 20 years, the greatest basketball players of all time are going to end up being LeBron and Steph. But they're not done yet. Those two guys are going to have a level of longevity, I think, that no one's going to match. I think LeBron and Steph are both going to play till like Tom Brady levels, like 45. I think they both have that Tom Brady mentality. And I think the reason that Michael Jordan has his aura is because of the 90s and his shoes. The shoes are amazing. The shoes, no athlete has ever marketed himself via shoes like Jordan. It's important. He has a cultural impact because of the shoes. My nephew just got Jordan 3s for his birthday. He's 13. Never saw him play. And yet somehow he wants Jordans because those are the shoes. Also, he never had a rival in the 90s. He had a rival in the 80s.
What?
He had the Pistons. In the 90s, there was never a team. I'll let you go. I won't interrupt you, I promise. He never had a team that could rival him in the 90s. He beat the Lakers at the end, Magic in his final season. Kareem wasn't on that team. He beat the Trailblazers. He beat Charles Barkley. He beat the Seattle Supersonics, and he beat the Jazz twice. None of those teams were dynasties. In the 80s, there were dynasties. Like Magic had Bird. Those two were legit rivalry. LeBron and Steph. Those two are legit rivalry. And that's why neither of those guys are flawless in the finals. I mean, the reason that Jordan has such a crazy reputation is the 6-0 in the finals thing. It's legit. But, I mean, he couldn't have done that in the 80s. He couldn't have done that in the 2010s. It was a little bit of a function of the fact that the NBA expanded a bunch and there weren't that many great teams in the 90s. That's the way I saw it.
What about the Pistons?
Hey, man, the Pistons beat him 3 out of 4 times in the playoffs. And that was the 80s.
And he ended it.
Right? He did. He beat him once. And that was impressive.
Here's the thing. Are you talking about longevity, or are you talking about the best basketball player to ever play? Or are you talking about over a period of time, a career?
Well,
or are you talking
to me,
about
like
the best basketball player of all time?
That's a great question. I think the greatest of all time, longevity factors in. Because in football, if you're talking about the greatest running back ever, and just like who had the highest ability, you could say it's Bo Jackson or Terrell Davis or something like that. But they're not the greatest running back of all time because they didn't have enough longevity. I think that matters in sports. And what's interesting with Jordan, when he was 38, he came back and played. He played with the Wizards. He was okay. I mean, he wasn't bad, but he wasn't LeBron. LeBron's 38 right now, and LeBron is still putting up the same numbers he put up 10 years ago. And I think Steph's going to be like that too. When he gets to 40, he's still going to be playing. He's still going to be shooting 40%. He's still going to be averaging 25. That's the way I look at it.
Here's my thing. LeBron has one of the best careers, if not the best career of all time. Michael Jordan is the best player of all time. Michael Jordan has never lost a championship in college, in the Olympics, in the FIBA, or in the NBA. He is 11-0 in championships. Here's another way to think of it. I really respect LeBron. He's top 3 or 4 for me. To me, it goes Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Steph Curry, or Steph Curry, LeBron James. That's how I see it. And it's just, how old are you, man? And I don't mean 35.
35.
Okay, I'm 43. 35. Yeah. So here's the thing. I've been a Warriors fan my whole entire life, but the Warriors kind of sucked when I was growing up, right? So in order to watch good basketball, I'm watching every single Michael Jordan game. Just yesterday, I made my kids watch a whole game because they were kind of saying the same stuff that you're saying right now. I'm like, you got to watch whole games. Just watch Michael Jordan play a whole game. He was he was
great, man. I'm not saying he wasn't good. I'm not saying hey, that great player you thought was great. He wasn't great.
10 scoring titles.
Yes.
9 all defensive teams. So
definitely in the conversation.
Both sides of the ball.
Yes.
The 3-point line wasn't even invented until I think his second year in the NBA. So there's no doubt in my mind if he grew up shooting 3-pointers, he would be a great shooter. One of his favorite shots was the deep 2. And it's just because he grew up playing, there was no 3-point line, right? So he never worked on being a 3-point shooter. Michael Jordan was the most clutch player I've ever seen in my life, doing the most amazing things. There'd be no Kobe without Michael Jordan. Kobe wanted to be like Michael Jordan. LeBron wanted to be like Michael Jordan. What LeBron has going for him is his athleticism and his size and his longevity. That's what makes LeBron such a great fact. He's been good for a long time. But he does not have that clutch DNA that Michael Jordan had. Like, he never lost a championship in his life, and he was good on both sides of the ball. There's nobody.
Yeah, but Michael Jordan. First of all, they say Jordan, Montana never lost championships. Again, I agree. I feel like Jordan's legacy is a lot like Montana's, and Montana was considered the GOAT for a long time, but no longer is. Why? Because Tom Brady's longevity. Tom Brady isn't undefeated in the Super Bowl, not at all. But the fact that he just kept going into his mid 40s is undeniable. He got a 7th ring. LeBron could do that. Steph could do that. Jordan couldn't. He fell off. He was heavily reliant on his athleticism and his bounce. He was always a great player. But at 38, he wasn't like LeBron is, like I think Steph will be. But we'll see. Their careers isn't over.
Here's how you ask.
One more thing I want to say before we move on, before you go. This is the point I wanted to make. I can still go back to the fact that he didn't beat any great teams in the finals. If you took Jordan off the Bulls and put Kobe on that team, Kobe and Scottie Pippen, would they have lost any of those 6 championships? Would they have lost to the Jazz if they had, prime Kobe instead of prime Jordan? I don't think so.
But here's the thing. I like Kobe. I love Kobe. He's my second, right? But he is everything he learned. His whole game was modeled after Jordan. So you can't, right? Jordan was the model for Kobe Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
All his moves, everything he did, he learned it from Michael Jordan. So that you can't surpass him if he has more championships and you learned everything.
Jordan was definitely better than Kobe.
So yeah.
I'm just making the point that I feel like there was no team that was going to knock off the Bulls. The Bulls were the best team. Pippen was great too. Jordan never won anything without Pippen. He needed Pippen.
2 3-peats. But that's like saying Steph never won anything without Draymond, right? But here's the thing.
Draymond's great too.
If you give LeBron Michael Jordan's skill set, is Michael Jordan a better or a worse player? Or excuse me, you give LeBron Michael Jordan's skill set, is LeBron a better or worse player?
If you gave him his skill set, well, he'd probably be a better player, but he's 6'8".
Yes.
He's 6'8".
Yeah.
And I think like that size differential is important. Like the fact he's a better rebounder than Jordan, but in addition, like he's a better passer than Jordan, and he's a more efficient scorer than Jordan in every single way except for free throw shooting.
I disagree with all of that. I disagree with you're my guy.
Those are stats.
Because of he's a better. What do you mean it's just stats? Like what
rebounds, assists, 3-point shooting percentage, field goal percentage. Those are just stats.
So you're saying LeBron is bigger and he has a longer career,
more efficient, longer career. I mean, affects the game in more ways. Jordan was a better defender for sure. Better free throw shooter for sure. But I feel like LeBron's better in every single way. And then you got Curry, who might end up as the greatest player of all time, better than both of them, because the greatest shooter and a great facilitator changed the game. And again, I think he's got 10 more years in his career. People don't talk about that with Steph, but he is so driven. Watch. He's not stopping.
I like Steph. I think he's going to be around a long time, but he's not a better facilitator than LeBron or Jordan, in my opinion. He's not a good passer. He's okay. He has the highest turnover rate. He has the most turnovers on the Warriors in the NBA. Damn near. I think he's top 5 in the NBA turnovers.
Whoa, that was blasphemous what you just said.
Yeah.
An okay passer, Steph Curry?
Yeah, he's
You watch his whole career and that's what you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Steph Curry is not even a real – here's the thing. I love Steph
You think
Curry.
Jordan was a better passer than Steph?
Yes. No question. No question.
Okay.
Yes, no question. Look, I'm a Warriors fan. I love Steph Curry.
Jordan was a ball hog.
But Steph Curry's not even a real point guard. He's not.
Yes, he is.
A majority of Steph is great. He's great. But he doesn't run the point. Right? He doesn't drive and kick out and facilitate. That's not what he does. Draymond's more.
He can.
Draymond is a better passer than Steph Curry.
I mean, no. He just has to play off the ball because he's the greatest shooter of all time. But when he's on the ball too in the playoffs, I mean, it's not like he's playing shooting guard to close the game in the fourth quarter of playoff games. He's the point guard.
Arguing against Steph Curry right now.
I can't believe you put yourself in this position. You said he's an okay passer wearing a Warriors hat.
It's not his strength. It's not.
Manny Fresh says, no, we got you. Not his strength. Damn, Steph's going to come on the show just to disagree with you. Raymond Martinez Jr. says, Grant, Jordan was so good, his teams won a three-peat. He took a break to play baseball and do whatever and still won another three-peat again. Laugh my ass off. Stop, G. Again, I think this is people my age and older really romanticizing the 90s. Like, just because we were kids.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. That's the way I feel.
Yeah.
Brady, not a GOAT. He lost championship. Sorry. Ooh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Big Tim 3 says, MJ changed the game. Your favorite player's favorite player is MJ.
There's two players that changed the game more than anybody. Michael Jordan, Steph Curry. They changed the game more than anybody.
How did Michael Jordan change the game? He could dunk.
No, not just that. The way he dunked, right? But also his post fadeaway, like his mid-range, back to the basket, post fadeaway. That's where Kobe learned it from. That's where LeBron learned it from. Jordan was the first guy really doing that. Him and Reggie Miller.
But isn't the mid-range dead? That's dead. Who plays like that anymore?
But he's the one that started that, right? And it didn't die until Steph came. So most two influential players of all time. It's
dead now, though. Black Orchid says Jordan scored 60 points without 3-point plays. I'm not saying he wasn't good. People will be like, "You think Jordan isn't good?" Yeah. Absolutely great player.
You're 8 years younger than me. I was pretty young when I was watching Jordan. You probably watched most of his later age after he should have retired and wrapped it up, right? But did you watch him? Like, did you watch full games growing up in the 80s and 90s with Michael Jordan?
I watched him mostly when he came back in his second stint. I mean, when he retired the first time, I was 5.
That's why. That's why. That's why I promise. That's why. And I don't. My kids.
But I watched a lot of Michael Jordan. I understand he was a great player and a great athlete. All I'm saying is, the best the best team he ever beat in the finals was the Jazz. The 90s were kind of a down era for the NBA. They expanded a lot. There weren't dynasties. And it's not his fault. But there was no team or no player that could match him. And like, it's not because he was by far the greatest player of all time. It just means that he missed. I mean, his team couldn't compete in the 80s. And he wasn't good in the 2000s on the Wizards. He was good for that 8-year stretch. He was phenomenal for that 8-year stretch. It just so happens that there wasn't a team that could. There was no Spurs, no Warriors, no LeBron, no Lakers.
I think you're underestimating the teams that he played against. He made them look that way. Here's the thing. He won 3 finals in a row, quit, went and played baseball, came back.
What team in the 90s would have been an all-time great dynasty if Jordan hadn't existed?
Man, now
Utah. Karl Malone and freaking no, man. To me, like those teams weren't that good. To me, like the freaking Spurs, excuse me, the Supersonics with Gary Payton and Sean Kemp, like that wasn't enough.
The Jazz, the Suns, the Knicks,
Barkley.
Yeah.
No, to be his biggest rival was the Pistons. And the Pistons beat him 3 out of 4 times. That's why Isaiah Thomas is salty. Because he's like, wait a second. I had their number.
Well, when he was young, he was learning. But when he got to his level, nobody could touch him again. Yeah.
Official BNA Music 88 says, one thing that LeBron and Kobe have over MJ is that he never carried trash team far.
And
never did a damn thing without Scottie Pippen.
But can we bring up a really important point, right?
Yeah.
You said the 90s was like trash, basically. Right? But here's the thing.
I tweeted that. Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you look at the football in the 90s for quarterbacks, what we were talking about with Steve Young, getting hit and that's how you could play defense with a hand on a guy the whole time. You could have your hand on a guy. You can't do that now. It's way easier to score.
But if you remember, you couldn't touch Jordan in the 90s. You could smack him around in the 80s, and the Pistons did. But once he won that first title, and I think this is another thing. I feel like the NBA, they profited off the rivalry of Bird and Magic in the 80s. Once those guys retired right around the same time, they knew the whole league was Jordan. There was no rivalry anymore. And it was all about Jordan's the greatest player of all time. Jordan's Jesus Christ on a basketball field. Buy his shoes and watch greatness play. And so you couldn't touch him, man. He got a lot of foul calls in the 90s.
All the greats do.
Of course. But I'm just saying, like, this whole thing, like, he played in a rougher era. Like, yeah, if everyone else did. Nah, he didn't. He was hand checking, not getting.
I don't know, man. It was rough back then. Like,
there was illegal defense back then. He could go one-on-one every time. How many times did he get the ball and just clear out, and 4 people would go to the corner, and he would go one-on-one? He could do that his whole career. You can't do that anymore. LeBron can't do that. LeBron gets doubled.
He was getting doubled all the time.
There's illegal defense in the 90s. You couldn't do stuff like that.
You could double team in the 90s.
There was illegal defense though. You couldn't. You had to be guarding someone at all times. You couldn't wait. They couldn't play zone.
They used to double team the shit out of Michael Jordan. I was just watching it yesterday.
But you can't if you cleared out, you literally can't play zone defense. You have to guard someone. You had to be guarding someone.
Zone people don't play zone a lot, even now. I mean, the Warriors will throw it in every now and then. If you got a good shooting team, you're not going to play zone. But they were doubling the shit out of Michael Jordan back in the day.
Josh Wyatt says the further we get away from the 90s, the more comfortable we are disrespecting Jordan. Jordan was inevitable.
I think people got to watch. I watch full games. Like I would watch full seasons like I do with the Warriors now. I've always been a Warriors fan, but when Michael Jordan was different. I'm telling you, different.
I have a theory. Everyone that thinks that Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player of all time also thinks that the 90s are the greatest era of rap music of all time. Am I wrong?
It's facts.
It's true.
Both
it's true.
Facts.
I'm telling you. Some people love the 90s. Yeah. William Bennett says the fade was the name. The fade was named the Jordan. The fade was named the Jordan. I'm sorry. I don't understand.
Talking about fade away.
It was.
Yeah.
I hate Jordan, but I'll admit he's the GOAT. Why do you hate Jordan? I don't hate Jordan. What do you do to you? I think it would be cool if Jordan played today because Jordan was the kind of guy who would gamble a lot and drink before games. And he had a very crazy lifestyle that would have been controversial if it had taken place during the social media time.
He's the most competitive guy I've ever seen, man. He is not losing. Like he is. That's who he is.
But he was also like a big time gambler. Like people, that would have been so. Like he was at casinos the night before playoff games. I mean, if they had cell phones like back then, or if he was doing that now, man, it'd be controversial.
They didn't. Yeah,
he'd be controversial. Like LeBron is controversial now. He never does anything like that. Can you imagine if LeBron? I think again, that was another product of the 90s, man. Just before, back when celebrities could be big time celebrities and you didn't know everything about them because social media didn't exist. He was larger than life in the 90s. He really was. Yeah. Adam Gardner. Grant, how's the offseason going for you? If we trade Lance, I don't think I can tout being a Niners fan for a while because it would be the dumbest freaking thing we've done in a long time. Having a good offseason. Can't complain. That's why I think you're going to be right and Larry's going to be wrong because the Niners don't want Adam Gardner to stop being a Niner fan.
Man, Grant, if they trade Trey Lance and don't get like an Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to be on their shit. Brock Purdy better be that guy that they think he is because I'm going to be on him tough like the Niners. You're going to hear a lot of criticism coming from me.
Big Tim 3 says Jordan had kids playing with their tongue out. I'm telling you, Jordan is just a phenomenon of marketing from the shoes to the tongue, to the logo. He owned the 90s. And I think the NBA would have died. It could have freaking died in the 90s without Jordan. There was no rivalry. There were no dynasties. He carried the whole league for a decade. To me, it was a downtime. All of a sudden, he retires, and then Tim Duncan comes in the league. Kobe comes in the league. You got the Lakers, who are a dynasty. The Spurs, who are a dynasty. LeBron comes in the league. Steph comes in the league. And all of a sudden, the league is great right now. But in the 90s, it was freaking...
Jordan made it, though, to where those teams couldn't be done.
Patrick Ewing? Yeah, absolutely. He carried the league. The league, and I think that's part of his legacy. It's part of his legacy.
Dude was like nothing I've ever seen in my life. People name their kids Jordan. Right? How many kids are named Jordan right now? There's probably someone watching this right now named Jordan because of this guy, man.
You know what I love is I used to be like every year in the NFL draft there were like 4 Shaquilles. I love that. I was like, of course. I think we're getting a little bit past that time though.
Yeah.
Kyler V says Steph has kids launching from 35. It's true. It's true. Yeah, Kenny G says MJ didn't get to load manage, played all games.
Every game.
But he did load manage though. He retired twice. That's load managing.
Oh, he's
kidding me? That's load management.
He retired and couldn't miss it. I wish he would have stayed retired. My wish is he never quit to play baseball and he never came back after retired after his sixth championship. Yeah.
Adrian Garcia says the idea that the idea that only the older generation is in love with MJ is false. I'm 19 and I take MJ over LaFlop James all day. All right, fair enough, Adrian. I didn't mean to paint with broad strokes like that. Thanks for putting that out there. The woke sports fan says, Grant, you were revealing too much truth. GOAT 1 of 1. Thank you, man. No. I appreciate it. I feel like people don't want to hear this right now, but their kids will love it.
Yeah, the kids are going to love it. Yeah.
To quote Back to the Future, I hate Jordan because he would kill the Knicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, like The Knicks were the biggest rival to him in the 90s, right? He had to go through Patrick Ewing and Allen Houston, and that team was good, but not all-time great.
And can we add something to it? It's not just that he won, and it's not just that he dunked. It's how he looked doing it. There was nobody that had that much style. The guy would float. He would just walk in air. It was just wild. Yeah.
It's true.